Okay.
All right.
You might actually want to sit down. That way you're safe.
Yeah. I was gonna do it on that side, and then I moved to this side and forgot. All right. Is she looking too far off now, or?
Yeah, come this way a little bit.
Okay.
Where's my eye gaze?
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. So first off, can you just tell me your name and how to spell it?
All right, my name is Brittney Oden, Brittney Oden.
All right. So how? Oh, and then your title. Sorry.
Oh, special ed teacher,
And then if you can say the school.
Summit Academy.
All right.
Do you want what I teach? Like what kind of classroom I'm in?
It's for the lower third, so when your name comes up, so that we can describe who you are and what you do. So it's whatever you want.
Okay, so I just teach mild intellectual disability, applied learning.
Okay.
I don't know.
So we'll probably just have the that shorter.
So
special
MID
education.
is like the
Oh,
short
if you do that.
MID.
Okay. So if you could say your title one more time, include.
Sorry.
No problem.
Special ed teacher, applied learning, MID.
All right. So how do you plan for meaningful communication within your classroom?
So there are several ways that I focus on to plan meaningful communication within my classroom. First is that I always make sure to clearly state expectations from the students so that they know what is expected of them. Then also when we're doing class discussions and group work, I will listen to what they say and then I rephrase their feedback or what they said back to them so that they can hear what they said, make sure that I have heard and understand what they say. But by clearly stating expectations and communicating that with them, they know what to expect, and we're able to have classroom discussions, we do debates, and so it really opens up, because they're not wondering what the parameters are, they're not wondering how they're going to communicate or what, for that activity, what I'm looking for. I also model by my teacher behavior, so I don't talk to them or communicate with them any differently than I would an adult or anyone else. It is obviously, teacher-student appropriate, but I give them that respect and that we build that rapport, that it is a safe learning community, that communication is key, and that we can work through if we're having conflict or difficulties. They also know that communication is the way to resolve that, and so I model that. Clearly state expectations, and then I make sure to give student feedback and rephrase what they've said so that they can, a lot of times it's to make sure that they've said what they think they've said. Sometimes they think their meaning is coming across, and then when I restate it, they'll realize that maybe they haven't communicated what they meant precisely.
All right. And how do you break down and teach grade level standards to your students?
So in special ed we have, there's the Gen Ed standards, Common Core, and then in special ed we have connectors. So what they've done is taken out just the most salient part of the standard that they say that special ed students should learn. So I always look at my connector to see what I'm expected to teach to my students. But then I always look at the Gen Ed standard to see what can my students do above that. Can they learn a little bit more than just the bare minimum or just the special ed standard? And so then I look at where my students are at, the ways that they learn, and how I can move them to bridge that gap between just teaching special ed standards and making sure that they're getting a little more well-rounded, or they're getting part of the Gen Ed standards too. So I try to incorporate as much Gen Ed standards. I teach my special ed standards, but if I look at that and say my students can do more than that, they can achieve more than that, I scaffold it for them so that they are reaching higher as their ability allows them.
Okay. It's not actually a question on here, but that kind of made me think about it.
Yeah.
If you could just kind of explain how you actually do that with connecting the two a little bit more.
Okay. I have my standards with me. So for example, we just did an earthquake lesson. Okay. The standard, my special ed standard for earthquakes is just to teach my students how to identify an earthquake. I saw that standard, and knowing the level of my students, I thought they probably could, most of them already do that to some extent. What can I do to take it to the next level? So I built in, not only do they have to identify it, but we identified tectonic plates and what causes earthquakes. So how does it feel above the ground? What is a fault? How is it caused? And then towards the end, we did talk about how you would identify it. So I kind of built up to that, giving them more information as we're building up to how to identify it. And then in ongoing lessons in this unit, we will break down fault, because one of the questions that remained was, can you see a fault above ground? And we briefly covered it, but we didn't cover it, or I didn't show them pictures. We didn't get in depth. So then in the next lesson, we would go into, well, can you see faults above ground? How do they react? Are they the same above ground, underground? So I would look and see in the Gen Ed standard what specifically on earthquakes 7th and 8th graders are learning, and then I would make sure to build that in, because I feel like in this one lesson, and at the beginning of the lesson, several of them already knew what an earthquake was. So just to say, I taught one lesson, I met my standard, you guys can identify earthquakes and move on, would be doing them a disservice, because with a little scaffolding and some extra lessons, they could reach potentially, you know, the Gen Ed standard for earthquakes. So I look and see how much more they could achieve.
All right, that's great. And then, do you have anything else you want to say about anything we talked about, or
anything? And just that I'm excited that you guys came out to film a science lesson. A science in special ed is a passion of mine. There's no reason why we can't be teaching science at some level in special ed. In the fall, these same groups of kids did a oil spill lesson, and they were learning scientific language, and they had to clean it up and work within a budget, and they were getting it and understanding it. They really enjoy hands-on learning. I find it's where they connect a lot, the science standards or concepts to their real lives. So I'm just excited to be doing science and special ed and to see them learn and grow, because it's not like math or a reading focus or speech goals but I'm excited to see the kids grow in science, and so I'm glad that we're doing it in the district and that it's a focus, and hope to see more science and special ed as we move forward.
Awesome.
Well, that's it.
We're good.
That's a wrap. All right, so I'm excited to see that many of you already know some stuff about earthquakes. So let's go ahead and review our agenda. All right, what is our objective today? I'm going to read it, and then when I say ready, read, we're all going to read it as a class. It's up here. I will. Okay, so first I read, and then you'll read. I will be able to identify earthquakes and their characteristics. All right, ready, read. I will be able to identify earthquakes
and their
characteristics. Let's say that word again. Characteristics. Good. Making sure we're appropriate. First, we're going to talk about what is an earthquake, what is a fault, characteristics of an earthquake above the ground, and then we have an experiment at the end of our lesson today.
Yay.
2 things to remember. When we see a pencil, that means we should be writing, and when we see the little chatty people, this is when you can talk with your shoulder partner. Okay? All right, you are going to individually, means not with your partner yet, just you. You'll notice your paper is divided into 2 sections. On the right-hand side, it says pre, and there's 3 sections. What is an earthquake? What is a fault? And what happens above ground, or that would be our characteristics above ground. I'm going to set the timer. We have 5 minutes. You need to fill out each box. What do you know? Also, remember, we are activating prior knowledge, so as long as these are your answers, there is no right or wrong answer. Okay? Go ahead. You have 5 minutes. Yes, Lucas.
What is an earthquake?
What is an earthquake?
So when the earth shakes.
Okay, so you're going to write that down for me.
You're going to write what you know about it. What is an earthquake? What is a fault? What happens above ground? After
That's a little better.
Okay.
One second. Do you have a timer, Miss Vicky? Oh. No, I do.
Just the pre-site.
Right now?
You need right now, right your hand.
All right, so remember you're doing this section, what is an earthquake, what is a fault, and then what happens above ground. Only on the pre-side. So you were in PE, these are observers for the district. Pretty cool. Alright, so what happens in an earthquake? Alright, Eric, what happens in an earthquake? You already told me some good information. So you need to write it down for me, okay? So that I can see what you know. Yes, Lucas? A fault. What is a fault? It's the earth, but earthquakes. So you may not know what a fault is, but putting it in context using our context clues, what can you guess or infer that a fault would have to do with an earthquake?
Maybe it's a rock.
Okay, could be a rock. Mm-hmm.
So, okay.
So if that's what you think, yeah. Because at the end of the lesson, you're going to fill out this side, and then we'll see what you've learned. Okay? All right, Manny.
What happens again?
About 3 more minutes, guys.
Well, I can't tell you.
All right, so what does this say? The earth.
Shake.
It's your context clues. And write what you think a fault is. There's no right or wrong answer.
Okay, and then have you figured out what you think a fault might be?
So whatever you think.
It's a rock?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to it, or is...
No.
All right. It's a rock. Okay, so now, what do you know about earthquakes above ground?
Above and shake. Make a new volcano.
Okay, so earthquakes above ground can make a new
I
volcano?
mean, island.
An island?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're going to write that in this box right here. Okay? All right, are you on fault, Manny? Okay. Do fault, and then you have to do above ground. You got it? All right, Eric, are you writing down everything you know? All right, good job, David. Okay, so you wrote earthquakes. You have more to write? Because you also have fault you need to do, and what happens above ground. Any ideas what a fault is? No? All right. Oh, so you're going to skip down and do what happens above ground and then come back to a fault? Okay, so one tip I'm going to give you, you may not know what a fault is, but put it in context to what we're learning. So what would a fault mean in earthquakes? Okay, think about that. Okay, boys, what's wrong? David is spelling. The awesome thing is, excuse me, boys, you are all going to get to share what you know and hopefully learn something new. What?
In the Hawaii.
In Hawaii. You know I like Hawaii. What, Ashley? Just sound it out, okay? All right. So we have earthquake. You have a fault.
Yeah.
And so now you're thinking about this one? Yeah. Okay. All right, guys, that was 5 minutes. Show me fist to 5 how many more minutes we need.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to do 1 more minute, guys. You don't need 4 minutes. You have one section.
I don't do nothing, Manny.
All right, good job. What happens above the ground? Have you ever seen pictures or movies of earthquakes? What happens above the ground? So what can we see when earthquakes happen? Think about that. Okay, so write that down. You continue to face forward. Is this your pencil?
Yes.
Okay. You need to face forward. All right, guys, I didn't set the timer for that 1 minute, but go ahead and be finishing up the sentence you're working on. I think I see most pencils down. All right, so for this, we're now going to share. So we wrote, now we're going to share. You're going to share with your shoulder partner what you wrote. So back row, you got it. Well, it's just going to be the 3 of you. Ashley, you can move over if you need to. Making sure, hold on, Skylar. Make sure that everybody in your group has time to share. So back row, there's 3 of you. You're going to make sure that we're focused, right?
Okay.
We share and we go down. Everybody shares. All right, go ahead.
Me, huh?
Yep, shoulder partners. Yep.
So
Earthquake
I
is
think
above
is
an earthquake.
I think it can move beams, can break houses and break trees. And what is it?
All right, so I am excited to see that many of you already know some stuff about earthquakes.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and review our agenda. All right, what is our objective today? I'm going to read it, and then when I say ready, read, we're all going to read it as a class. It's up here. I will. Okay, so first I read, and then you'll read. I will be able to identify earthquakes and their characteristics. All right, ready, read.
I will be able to
Identify
earthquakes
earthquakes
and their characteristics.
characteristics. Let's say that word again. Characteristics. Good.
Yeah.
Making sure we're appropriate. First, we're going to talk about what is an earthquake, what is a fault, characteristics of an earthquake above the ground, and then we have an experiment at the end of our lesson today.
Yay.
2 things to remember. When we see a pencil, that means we should be writing, and when we see the little chatty people, this is when you can talk with your shoulder partner. Okay? All right, you are going to individually, means not with your partner yet, just you. You'll notice your paper is divided into 2 sections. On the right-hand side, it says pre, and there's 3 sections. What is an earthquake? What is a fault? And what happens above ground, or that would be our characteristics above ground. I'm going to set the timer. We have 5 minutes. You need to fill out each box. What do you know? Also remember, we are activating prior knowledge. So as long as these are your answers, there is no right or wrong answer. Okay? Go ahead. You have 5 minutes. Yes, Lucas.
What is the earthquake?
What is an earthquake?
So when the earth shakes.
Okay, so you're going to write that down for me. That's a little better.
Okay, that's the whole
Give me a second.
Yeah.
Do you have the timer, Mr. Steve? Oh, really?
just the preset.
Right now?
You need to write your name straight down, write your name and date.
All right, so remember you're doing the section, what is an earthquake? What is a fault? And then what happens above ground? Only on the pre side.
The part of the
All right, so what happens in an earthquake?
tag.
All right, Eric,
The
what
part
happens
of
in
the
an
mountain.
earthquake? You already told me some good information. So you need to write it down for me, okay? So that I can see what you know. Yes, Lucas? A fault. What is a fault? What is a fault? Okay, so let's think about what we're learning. You may not know what a fault is, but put it in context to what we're learning. What are we learning about? We're learning about earth, not just the earth, but earthquakes. So you may not know what a fault is, but putting it in context using our context clues, what can you guess or infer that a fault would have to do with an earthquake?
Could be a rock.
Okay, it could be a rock. So if that's what you think, yeah. Because at the end of the lesson, you're going to fill out this side, and then we'll see what you've learned. Okay? All right, Manny.
What happens?
About 3 more minutes, guys.
Well, I can't tell you, it's what you know.
So what's
So
this?
based on the fact that we're talking about earthquakes, use your context clues, and then write what you think a fault is. There's no right or wrong answer, because it's just what you know before you know what
What fault might be?
So whatever you think it might be, write it down.
Okay. Do you have anything to add to it? Or
Okay.
is- Okay, so now, what do you know about earthquakes above ground?
It shake.
make a new volcano.
Everything.
Okay, so earthquakes above ground can make a new volcano?
I mean, island.
An island?
Yeah.
Okay, so then you're gonna write that in this box right here. Okay, all right, are you on fault, Manny? Okay. Do fault and then you have to do above ground. You got it? All right, Eric, are you writing down everything you know? All right, good job, David. Okay, so you wrote earthquakes. You have more to write? Because you also have fault we need to do and what happens above ground. Any ideas what a fault is?
No.
No? All right. Oh, so you're going to skip down and do what happens above ground and then come back to a fault? Okay, so one tip I'm going to give you, you may not know what a fault is, but put it in context to what we're learning. So what would a fault mean in earthquakes? Okay, think about that. Jacob's telling David to spell for me. Now remember, this is individual. These are your answers. All right, so what do you think happens above ground?
A new island.
A new island happens?
Yeah.
Okay.
In the Hawaii.
In Hawaii. Okay. You know, I like Hawaii. What, Ashley? Just sound it out. Okay. All right. So we have earthquake. You have a fault.
Yeah.
And so now you're thinking about this one. Okay. All right, guys. That was 5 minutes. Show me fist to 5 how many more minutes we need. All right, we're gonna do 1 more minute, guys. You don't need 4 minutes. You're in section.
Yeah, we talked.
So what is that? I don't do nothing, Manny.
All right, good job. What happens above the ground? Have you ever seen pictures or movies of earthquakes? What happens above the ground? So what can we see when earthquakes happen? Think about that. Okay, so write that down. Is this your pencil? All right, guys, I didn't set the timer for that 1 minute, but go ahead and be finishing up the sentence you're working on. I think I see most pencils down. All right, so for this, we're now going to share. So we wrote, now we're going to share. You're going to share with your shoulder partner what you wrote. So back row, you got it. Yes, well, it's just going to be the 3 of you. Ashley, you can move over if you need to. Making sure, hold on, Skylar. Make sure that everybody in your group has time to share. So back row, there's 3 of you. You're going to make sure that we're focused, right?
Okay.
We share and we go down. Everybody shares. All right? Go ahead.
Me and him.
Yep, shoulder partner.
So
Earthquake
I
is
think what is an earthquake, I think it can move things, can break houses and break trees. And what is it? I think this a big blast house is broken. And what happens above ground that it shakes everything.
What is it?
It's all earthquakes and when the earth moves.
Okay, did you guys share? Okay, so tell me one thing Manny told you.
Manny told me when the earthquake, I'm sure you gotta go buy a new one.
Yeah, you would need a new house, right? Manny, tell me one thing David said.
I mean, under
I read the question.
David, sorry, Lucas.
It's sorry, it's very hard.
Like the poor bridge
Do you remember one thing he said? Okay, he has papers right there. You could look if you don't remember. So what tell me, what does he think a fault is? It's a rock. He thinks it's a rock. Remember that we have you share with a partner so you can have an answer ready when we need to share as a class, okay? So make sure, Manny, you have something to say if I call on you. Back row, did we get through all 3 people?
No, Dodge is thirsty.
Josh is finishing.
it makes like a mountain.
Yeah.
And the fault is like,
Actually, did you two share?
yeah, what would you guys?
No, tell me something Eric said.
Eric said we didn't actually do this. The ground shapes, like he said, they found shapes.
Okay.
And I
You
said,
need to fill out that part.
and then I said that the false. What is it called? The false is not the building underground.
Right, if that's what you think. Remember, on our pre-side, there's no right or wrong answer. It's activating your prior knowledge. All right, guys, I looked around. Love some of what you guys had to share. Some good ideas. You guys know a lot about earthquakes, but I see a lot we can learn, so I'm excited. We are going to have two people share what you guys talked about. So you can share what is an earthquake, what is a fault, or what happens above ground. Anything you talk with your partner. So first up, we have Skylar. One thing.
An earthquake is something. An earthquake is when something goes and never stops.
All right, so an earthquake is something that goes and doesn't stop. Someone from a different. I'm pulling all of your row. David, share one thing.
Which one?
Anyone you want. You get to choose.
What is the fall? And it makes stuff shake and fall and it changes.
All right, so he says that a fault makes things shake and fall
And kill people.
and can kill people.
Wow.
Possibly. We'll see as we go on. All right. So first we're going to go over our first section. What is an earthquake? Who would like to read this top part for us? Skylar.
An earthquake is the sudden movement of the Earth's crust, and it can be felt as a shaking or a shock out of the Earth's surface.
Right, so an earthquake is when there's sudden movement in the Earth's crust. Remember, Earth's crust is below ground. And I think it was David that was talking about shaking and rolling, right? That's how we feel an earthquake. All right, next paragraph. Jacob.
Earthquakes are caused by the movement of planets in the Earth's plates in the Earth's crust. Those plates move together or apart. When they move together or break is when we feel an earthquake.
So how many of you guys knew that there's plates under the Earth's surface? Okay, and they move and they shift. So when we feel an earthquake, it's when these plates are moving and shifting. And how do we feel an earthquake? Lucas?
When everybody does shake.
So up here, yep, shaking, a roll, or a shock. What do you guys think? Has Arizona ever had earthquakes?
Yeah.
We have our map here. So thumbs up. How many of you think Arizona has had earthquakes, or thumbs down if you think Arizona has not had earthquakes? Only one thumb, guys, and I need to see everybody's. Oh. Wait. All right, do you think Arizona had an earthquake yesterday?
No?
Yeah.
Arizona had 2 earthquakes yesterday.
Boom.
How did I feel it?
Why can't we feel it?
I feel it.
How many earthquakes do you think we've had in the past 7 days?
I don't.
So the last week, Jacob.
We had 2. Yes, we had one on Saturday and one on Sunday.
So you're saying in the last week there were 2?
Yeah, because
Okay. So think about that. If we had 2 yesterday, and you're saying we had 2 more over the weekend, how many would that be?
Oh.
4.
4. Any other guesses?
I feel
Lucas.
I'm not sure. 'Cause I didn't
100 in a week?
What?
No, we're not quite there. Skylar.
Maybe it is.
Wait, can you repeat the question again?
Yes. How many earthquakes has Arizona had in the last week? So 7 days, 1 week.
8.
I think it's 2.
So guys, it's actually 10. How many of you guys have been watching the news lately? We've been
I
hearing
see
a
one.
lot about the earthquakes in Arizona.
Oh,
So
yeah.
how many of you think you know on the map where they are, Ashley?
One, I think, is in Phoenix.
So we're here. This is Phoenix area
I know there was one yesterday in Oklahoma.
in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Possibly. I didn't hear that on the news, but
I saw.
possibly. Jacob, where on
And,
here do you think?
I think it's in
Glendale?
Glendale.
So Glendale is west in the West Valley, west of here. So if you've been watching the news, the swarm of, they've been calling it a swarm of earthquakes Arizona has been having. It's up in this area, up in the northwest corner, kind of where we meet Nevada. Okay. We typically don't feel them. Just because we have an earthquake doesn't mean you feel them, right?
But Miss, have we had one in Mesa?
Yeah.
Not recently that I know of, but I mean, at some point in time in history, I'm sure we could have.
Hey, you remember
Because
that?
I felt one in my